All right, we will go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to our UCF Recruiter webinar for our spring internship fair, as well as our spring career expo. So my name is Veronica Haynes, and I'm the interim director for experiential learning, and our office will be hosting the internship fair. And then we also have staff on the webinar from Career Services, who will be hosting the Career Expo. So again, welcome. Just one quick housekeeping tip. So the webinar is broken up into different sections. So we'll go over the student view. We'll also go over the employer view as well. So you are welcome to type your questions into the chat box. And so if your question pertains to the section that we are on, we will go ahead and we will get to that question at that time. But if it pertains to a different section, we definitely will get to your question, but we may hold off on that until we actually get to that section. And so I will turn it over to Ibby, who will be facilitating our webinar.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this recruiter webinar. Thanks for the intros, Veronica. I'm Ibby, so I'll be taking you through this webinar presentation, guiding you through the recruiter viewpoint of what you should be doing and how things work for a virtual fair. If this is your first time participating in a virtual fair, welcome. If you participated in any last semester, you may be familiar with the platform already, but there are a few things that might be new or new features, so we'll be running through those. As Veronica mentioned, it is being recorded, so you should have access to this after. And the dates of the events are on this current screen, so the Internship Fair and the Career Expo, and you can see contact information for both. So if you have any questions, those are the emails you want to be reaching out to for their respective fairs. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll begin by going over an overview of a timeline, so you have an idea of what it looks like, from a holistic perspective, what to expect at each stage of the virtual fair. And then we'll go through the student experience, so you know what's taking place from the student view and how they see your schedules and your employer profile. And then we'll go through the recruiter view as well. And if you have questions on these stages as we go through, I'll be checking the chat box periodically. But if you have questions that I know we're going to cover, we'll hold off on those and we'll go through any questions at the end. So let's start with the overview. We'll start with the day of the fair. Obviously, this is when you'll be interacting with the students, whether they've booked meetings with you or they're coming into group meeting schedules, which we'll discuss. And around that, we have something called the scheduling window. And this is the time period that refers to when students are able to book meetings with you. And you should have received dates. If you have any questions, you can contact the fair organizers for Internship Fair and Career Expo, respectively. But the scheduling window will be open through the fair, so students will be able to continue to book on your schedules. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring your schedule, so if you have new bookings. And the scheduling window open date is set to open on Jan 20th, so almost reaching that date right now. We're just before that, after the fair launch, but before the scheduling window opens. So you all should have received your email invitations to the platform. If you have not, please check your junk and your spam folders. And if it's still not there, then reach out to the contact people to resend that link to you. So you need to log in and create an account via that link if it's your first time creating an account. And that's how you'll be able to go in, create your schedules and view your reservations and monitor what's happening within your team. Any questions on this high-level overview just before we move ahead? You can feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll be checking that. So just a summary, we've passed the fair launch date, which means all your employer profiles are listed in the platform for students to go in and start doing their research. They will also see if you've created schedules. So if you haven't, highly encourage you, definitely should do that before the scheduling window opens to students so that they can come and book with you as we approach the day of the fair. let's move ahead for now. So students coming into the platform, this is the app view. They can also use the web view, but we'll go through the app. So when they first sign in, they'll be asked to choose their role. And of course, they'll select student and they'll come in and they can type UCF. Sorry, I don't know why that keeps happening. They can type UCF into the search bar. It will pull UCF as an organization up to the top. And once they click that, they will be able to see, as you can see here, all the fairs that are coming up. So we have the Internship Fair, and we have the Career Expo, non-technical, and the technical day of the Career Expo as well. So they'll just want to select whichever fair it is that they're going in to take a look at, view, book meetings on. So let's say they selected Technical Career Expo. It will bring them to this page, which has some event details, just a general overview. It's got the details, date, time. If they have any questions, they can directly reach out to event organizers. And going through the tabs at the bottom, they'll want to select the Employers tab. So once they do, it'll bring them to this page. All of the registered employers that are already in the platform that have registered will be listed here. So they'll be able to scroll through and do their research, view the information you provided as part of your registration. So website, overview, majors you might be recruiting for or positions you might have open. They'll be able to do that research. As you can see, when they click on a company, they'll be able to mark it as a favorite if they like, view your website. There's an overview for the company, and scrolling down a little more, there's majors, position types, school years, work authorizations, job titles, various fields that might be pertaining to that company. So this is where they'll come in and do their research. Once the scheduling window opens, they can click this View Meetings button to go in and view the schedules you've created. And so once they click that, it will bring them through to this page showing the schedules as little cards. And if you've already gone into the platform and tried to create your schedules, you'll notice there are two types of schedules, and we will run through those. There is one-on-one schedules, and you can see that icon over here, and group schedules. There is a difference in these, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail on the recruiter side, but they'll be able to book. If it's a one-on-one, they will select a specific time slot to book on. They're grayed out at the moment. As you can see, the scheduling window hasn't opened yet. So they can view these, but they can't book until the window opens. And you can see here, this is the name of the schedule. So it says Electrical Power Substation Design, and the name of this schedule is Company Overview. And you can see how the timings are different. So this company overview is looking like something more of a presentation, a kind of info session set from 11 to 11:30. And this is a kind of full day schedule with meetings with this particular recruiter. So that's what they will see. And this will be relevant when we come into the recruiter viewpoint again. So once they book those meetings, it will look something like this. Again, it's grayed out right now, but they can click into the schedule to view more details. So this is what the one-on-one meeting would look like. And this is what it would look like if they click into the group meeting schedule. Let's go one more forward. Once they book meetings, they can click into this tab at the bottom, the meetings tab. And so I've got my demo fair over here with some meetings I've booked, and they'll be able to see them all here, whether it's a group schedule, a one-on-one schedule, the date. So if they are booking meetings at the Technical Career Expo, they'll be able to see those here, or the non-technical, they'll see those here as well. And if they click into that, they'll be presented with this screen. So again, it has the full overview of that meeting with the date and the time and any additional instructions you've provided. And they'll have this big join meeting button to go into the video meeting platform. This is just what it looks like on the web view. So pretty similar. Obviously, it's a slightly larger view than on the phone, but again, they can see the same information, and they will click here to join the video meeting with you. Any questions on the whole student view before we move into the recruiter viewpoint. So anything from students going in, searching for employers, researching them, booking meetings and joining meetings. Any questions on that piece? Okay, sounds like we're good to move on. So the part everyone's been waiting for, that's obviously more important for recruiter perspective, is of course the recruiter walkthrough. So like I said, hopefully you've all received your invitations by now and hopefully gone in, set up your accounts. Please do that as soon as possible so that you can familiarize yourselves with the platform. And as I mentioned, the scheduling window for students to book meetings with you will open on Jan 20th. So you definitely want to have your schedules created by then. So they go in, if they're interested in meeting with your company, they have schedules to book meetings on. So you've received the invitation email. It's got a pretty clear call to action. It says, click here to get started. You'll go in and create your account. And this is directly linked to the email address it's been sent to. So if you would like to invite another recruiter, you can do that once you create your account and invite teammates. But this link you receive in the email is unique to you and your email address. So please set up your account with the same name that you're going to be logging in with in future. Once you've set up your account and you need to go back to log in, this is the website you need, app.careerfairplus.com, and you'll see this login button in the top corner. So you'll want to select that and go ahead and enter your details on this page, email address and password that you've set up, and click to log in. So this might look familiar. Once you get into the platform, you will be presented with this page called My Fairs. If you are participating in, for example, the Internship Fair and the Career Expo, you may see 2 fairs listed here. If you're also participating in fairs at other schools, you'll see them all listed here under your account. So I've just got a demo fair here. We'll click into that demo fair and you should see a drop-down menu of options, this green one over here, where you have various actions you can do. And this really gives you full control into managing your own team, inviting your colleagues or your teammates or other recruiters that need to be present, and creating your own schedules. So we'll go through a couple of these actions. Very straightforward. If you do need to edit your profile, you can do that from here. If you need to invite another recruiter, all you need is their email address. So we've made it really easy for you. You just need to know their email address. You'll enter it here and click invite. And what that is going to do is send an email from the Career Fair Plus system to the recruiter the same way you would have received your initial invitation email. And they'll come in and create their account, and they'll be able to see this same menu of options that you can see. So you'll all, within your team, you'll all have the same access and visibility into the platform, schedules, viewing candidates, inviting other teammates. And the other action you can do is to create a schedule. So from this menu of options, you can either create one for yourself, you can create them for a teammate or a colleague. So if you would like to build them for your team, you're more than welcome to do that. And so we'll run through the process of creating a schedule for someone else. It's exactly the same as creating it for yourself, except that you'll choose who that someone else is. And we'll go through that in just a moment. Are there any other questions before we move on to schedule creation? Yeah, I see a question in the chat. It's asking for the website to log in, and the link is app.careerfairplus.com. I see another question as well. Let's take a look. There is another question in the chat. It's a great question. It says, how many reps or how many recruiters can one employer or organization invite as part of that team? There is no limit on the platform to how many recruiters they can invite. So if you need to invite 3 people to your team or 8 people to your team, you can certainly do that. You will just enter a new email address in that box and hit invite recruiter. If there are any specific questions pertaining to the fairs themselves, please contact the points of contact for Internship Fair, so Veronica, or Career Services for the Career Expo.
And then, Ivy, we did have one other question in the chat that said, can we add people not in the initial registration? So I think what they mean is that if, because you register on Handshake, if they listed individuals on that registration, can they add individuals who weren't on that registration form into the Career Fair Plus platform for the schedules?
Yeah, great question. Again, absolutely they can. So the Career Fair Plus platform, the way it works is when an employer completes their registration, they have to provide one email address, and that is who that initial invitation will get sent to. And that representative, whoever's email address that was, will be the ones creating and setting up the account. Once they get into this platform, they can most certainly go ahead and invite multiple more recruiters, even if they were not listed on that initial registration. I'm seeing a few more questions which are all pertaining to schedules and the video platform, so we're about to come on to that. So let's go ahead and move to that section. So to create a schedule, they will click the Create Schedule button in that menu, either for themselves or for someone else. As I said, they're exactly the same. This one has one extra step because they have to choose who the someone else is. And so in the first stage, they will be provided with a list of all the recruiters they've invited. So let's say I was the representative who registered my company for the internship fair. I received that initial invitation email. I came on, set up my account. I'll go in and invite a few of my colleagues into the platform, and whoever I've invited will be listed here for me to choose from. So I'll be able to either select if this schedule will belong to one of them, or I can do the invitation in this piece as well. So 2-in-1. I can just enter the email address here, and that will automatically invite them and assign the schedule to them. If for whatever reason you're not sure who's going to be managing this schedule, maybe you go in and you know that you're going to have a schedule for 3 recruiters that are participating, or you know that you're going to have one schedule for software development interns, another schedule for business development interns, and another schedule for accounting interns, but you don't know exactly who's going to be managing those, you can certainly click skip the recruiter for now. And once you know, you can always edit this later. So we can hit skip for now, and then you'll hit next. And this will bring you to step 2, which is where you can choose the type of schedule you'd like to create. So there are 2 types of schedules offered on the platform. The first one is the one-on-one schedule. And this is probably the recommended for most employers. What this means is that students come in to view your schedules. They will book a specific time to meet with you. So as a recruiter, you will set up your schedule 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30, 9:45, 10 o'clock. Students will come and book specific time slots, so you know exactly who you're expecting to meet and speak with and the time. And then they will join at that designated time, and it's intended to be a one-on-one interaction with you and the student in that video meeting room. You can have, I know this is one of the questions, you can have a second recruiter or a third recruiter in that meeting. There can only be one assigned recruiter per schedule. So you can have one of your colleagues as the assigned recruiter, but if they say, hey, I'd like you to come and join in for a couple of my meetings, you can do that. If you have access to the platform, you can go in and enter that video meeting room. So that's the one-on-one schedule. If you're looking to host something more fluid, more open, maybe like a networking session or some kind of presentation, maybe an info session, or you're just looking to have an open room where you want students to be able to come in and drop in, ask you any questions, more like a walk-in or a drop-in, a walk-up to your virtual booth, you could consider a group schedule. And on this type of schedule, students don't book a specific time. So you might have it open from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., for example, and say students can come in and ask their questions at any time during that interval. So they will still book on the schedule. You will still get to view their profile information and their resume if they've uploaded one, but they can drop in at any time during the time you've set for the schedule. And you can't customize your availability within that group schedule the same way you can in the one-on-one. So let's just review some of those differences. So the one-on-one schedule best replicates a one-on-one interaction at a career fair. So one student, one recruiter, you're having that discussion about their education or their experiences, their resume, very personal interaction, much more intimate. And students must book that within the scheduling window. You can have only one student per time slot. So you'll only ever be speaking with one student at a time. Ideally, of course, they join at their appointed time. And the rooms that are created for the one-on-one schedules are what we call small rooms. They can host up to 4 people in the room at a time. So this is where that question comes in about multiple recruiters. You can have a second recruiter in there, up to a maximum of 4 people. So usually it's one student, one recruiter, but it might be one student, 2 recruiters, or one student, 3 recruiters. The rooms are set up as locked rooms, so when candidates join, they will have to knock to enter the room, and we'll run through that. And as I said, recruiters can completely customize their availability. So if you want to set a lunch break, you can set a lunch break and make sure that you're not going to have any bookings during a certain time period. The group schedules, as I said, it replicates something close to an info session or a networking session, or maybe a company presentation or a Q&A. And in this case, the scheduling window is open throughout the fair, but even if it did close earlier, the idea is that students can still come in on the day of the event and meet to chat with an employer. So you can have multiple students booking on the schedule. There is no limit. There can be 200 students booking on the schedule or 10 students booking on the schedule. The only thing there is that the room itself can hold 50 participants at one time. I see there is a question on that. So there is no way to edit that. The room is set to hold a maximum of 50 at one time. So there can be 200 people joining that room at different times through the day or through the session. And if you want to be able to reach a bigger number of people, what you could do if it's something like a presentation, let's say you want to hold an info session or a company presentation where you'll give an overview of your company, you could set up multiple throughout the day. So you might choose to have one from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and another one in the afternoon from 2 to 3, for example. These are also set up as locked rooms, but the idea is that representatives from the company can't set your availability on this schedule. If you say it's open from 9 to 12, it's going to be open from 9 to 12, and there should be someone there, staffing that room in case students do drop in to chat with you. Let's take a look at some questions. The group meetings is a new feature, so if you participated in fairs last season, this is something new on the platform, so I want to take a look at some of the questions. Okay, there is a question from Brandon about the assigned recruiter on the schedule. That's absolutely fine, Brandon. Anyone else, as I said, all the recruiters within your team have access to the same schedule. So even if it's assigned to someone else, anyone can technically go and join the meeting if they have access to the platform. You can also change the assigned recruiter at any time. It's not fixed. Barbara, I think we answered the question. You're not able to edit the max participants in the room at one time. The other option is that you could edit the interaction type. So instead of using the Career Fair Plus room, you could feel free to provide your own link, whether it's Zoom or Teams, WebEx, Skype, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. You can feel free to update that, and we'll get into that stage in a second. Next question from Barbara. Great question. We'll touch on that right now. So let's move ahead to the next stage. So as you saw, step 2 was to choose one-on-one or group, and step 3 is schedule details. So on this page, this is where the recruiter or whoever is creating the schedule wants to include details. And as you saw from the student experience, when a student comes in to view the schedules, they will see that name. So if you recall, there was something like power engineers, company overview, and there was also electrical engineering internship. So this is what candidates or students will use to determine, is this the right schedule for me? Is this suitable? What is the schedule about? So in the name, typically it would be a description of the role. So it might say software development internship. It might say marketing interns. It might say marketing graduate role, for example. So that's entirely up to you what you put in the name of the schedule. And in the description, feel free to add any additional information you like. So either something more about the company or about the role, preferences, maybe you say, you know, seeking education majors or looking for a minimum of 1 year experience or minimum of some internship or project experience. Anything can be entered here. So even if it's a group schedule, you will want to put a schedule name in that describes what that schedule is about, whether it's a Q&A or an info session, networking session, company presentation. And again, in the description, you can also add anything relevant there. So, you know, join us to hear more about what internship programs we have on offer this summer. Anything you like that's relevant. The scheduled date is pulled automatically from the date of the event. So if you're signed in on the Internship Fair, it's automatically going to pull that date. If you're under the technical day of the Career Expo or the non-technical day, it will have that date by default, respectively. The interaction type, this is on the same page, schedule details. By default, this is the Career Fair Plus video room. That is the default setting. There is an option to change this. So if you were to click this drop-down menu, you will see that there is the option to select external link. So Barbara, to answer your question, the Career Fair Plus video room can only host 4 people for the group meeting. If you wanted to try and have more people in that, you could consider entering your own Zoom link or Teams or any other platform that you know can support the people you want it to support. And you will have to provide the link in the additional instructions for candidates to join. So if you do select external link, make sure that you provide the instructions for how students should join that meeting. No problem, Barbara. And yeah, that is the description. So absolutely, you can say we'll be running through a PowerPoint for 20 minutes and then taking questions, for example, or you can split up into multiple different group schedules. There's no limitation on what you can use that for. Let's move ahead to the next stage. So step 4 is time and duration. Now, in the one-on-one schedule, you will have the ability, as I said, to completely customize your schedule when you're free, when you're available, and when you don't want to, for example, meet with any students. So over here, you can see there's a start time and end time for the schedule. Again, by default, these will pull from the timings of the event. So if the event is, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., it's automatically going to be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., but you can change it. So if you know you're available from 10 to 1, you can change it. The other way to do that would be to block off the time slots after 1 p.m. and leave this as is. And you can also change the duration of the meetings you'd like. So the default is 10 minutes. From experience and from feedback from students and recruiters, that seems to be the sweet spot. If you would like to make it longer, you're more than welcome to do that. You would just enter 15 minutes or 20 minutes, click apply changes, and you will notice that these time slots, which are currently 10 minutes, will automatically regenerate to give you a schedule with 15 or 20-minute time slots. You will see when you first come into this page that some of them are blocked off by default. The system by default provides you with a break every hour, but if you don't need that break or don't want that break and you want to open it up to more students, you're welcome to toggle this and unblock it. So like I said, completely customizable. If I were to scroll down, this is a screenshot, but if I were to scroll down and I wanted to take lunch from 1 to 2 or 1 to 1:30, I can block off those time slots and I can add a reason if I want to. Or if you have a meeting or some other commitment, you can block off those time slots. If anything gets cancelled, you can come back in and unblock them. Before I take questions, I'll just add a couple of other points. You can edit schedule start time, schedule end time, and duration while you're creating your schedule, and you can edit it after you create your schedule as well. So between now and Jan 20th, when the scheduling window opens, you can come in and edit this. Once you receive even one student booking on your schedule, you will not be able to edit these time-related variables. So if you've set 10-minute appointments and you get a booking at 9:30 to 9:40, you can't then say, oh, actually, I'd like to do 20-minute slots. Of course, you've already set it at 10. For a group schedule, this page will look slightly different. You'll only see the start time and the end time. There'll be no time slot duration and there'll be no customization down here. It will just have a start time and an end time. So that's where you'll choose, if it's a company overview, you'll choose 9 to 10 or 10 to 11 or 10:30 to 11, and you can have multiple of those if you'd like to set it up that way. I see a couple of questions, so let's take a look. Okay, Teresa, hopefully that answered your question slightly. So the question is there a certain date that we cannot make any more changes, or can we make changes on the same day of the fair? So if you have no student bookings on your schedule, hopefully not. If you have no student bookings, you can still make changes at any time. But as I said, as long as there is at least a minimum one student booking on this schedule, you won't be able to edit the time-related variables. You obviously won't be able to block off that particular time slot. However, if you have open time slots and you would like to keep them unbooked, you can still go and block those off. So if you come in on the day of the fair and you see that you've got nothing booked until 10 a.m. and you would like to, keep the first 2 time slots blocked off, you can certainly block those off if there's no bookings. Perfect. There is another question about the Career Fair Plus video room, and we'll get to that in a moment. Any other questions on this time-related piece of schedules?
So Ibi, I just wanted to just kind of piggyback off of that just so people know. So even for those that participated in our fairs last semester, one of the major differences is that the scheduling window for students does stay open. So that means that throughout the day of the fair, if you have available slots, students can still book those appointments. So if you come in that morning and you see that you have slots that haven't been filled, say at, from 10 to 10:30, and you don't want to constantly monitor your schedule, you'll want to make sure that you block those time slots off So then at 9:30 or 9:45, a student doesn't go into your schedule and book them, and then maybe you aren't prepared to be able to meet with that student. So again, even for those, if you attended our fair last semester, we did close the scheduling window. This time we're not doing that. And so just making sure that if you don't want to have students the day of signing on to your schedules, then you would just have to go in and block those time slots on your schedule.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for highlighting that, Veronica. It is definitely important. So as Veronica mentioned, if you participated in the fairs last season, the scheduling window did close before the event began, which means that students were not able to book on your schedule. So if you had open slots, let's say 9:30 on the morning of the fair, it's going to be open for the rest of the day. You wouldn't receive any bookings. In this case, you definitely want to make sure that if you want to keep that open, you will need to block it off. When you come in on the morning and you check your schedule, you review your schedule, you want to make sure that if there's a currently available open time slot and you don't want to be, caught off guard if a student comes in and books it, make sure you block that time slot off. Any other questions on the time piece? Okay, let's move on. The final stage, or kind of looks like the penultimate, but it's actually the final stage, is step 5, which is it is the prerequisites. I do have a slide here that shows what it looks like for editing the timings of the group schedule. As you can see, there's a start time and end time. And again, once a student books onto that, you won't be able to edit the start and end time. So you definitely want to make sure you set that up correctly, especially for the group schedule. If you know you're only there from 9 to 10 or 9 to 9:30 running an info session, you want to make sure that is set 9 to 9:30, because once students book on it, you can't then go and change the timings. So prerequisites, this is entirely optional. You will have some fields available if you click enable, and these are determined by the organizers of the event. So Veronica, or experiential learning for the Internship Fair, and career services for the Career Expo. So they may differ from fair to fair. You may find that fairs you participated in with other schools, or even last season, or even between fairs coming up. So the Internship Fair, Career Expo, technical, non-technical, you may find there are some minor differences because these are controlled by the fair organizer. So if you click enable, you'll be presented with some options. Some examples could be GPA or major, and you can filter for those, but just to be really clear, these are not or variables, they are and. So if you select multiple, you're going to be really restricting the pool of students that can book with you, perhaps unintentionally. And so you want to make sure that you're making sure that you're targeting the students that are going to be a good fit for you, and not excluding a whole group of students that you may unintentionally be excluding by adding on too many prerequisites. So it is entirely optional. Recommendation would be to kind of steer clear of them, and you can always update that later if you need to. But in order to make sure you're actually getting student bookings and being able to have interactions with students, trying to keep it open and fostering some kind of inclusive environment is usually a good way to start off. Here is an example of what that page might look like. You might not see all the same options. You might just see a handful of them. And you can also use the additional prerequisites field down at the bottom if you have anything else that you want to include that maybe wasn't mentioned here. So if you need to ask students if they have a driver's license, for example, you can enter that question here. Do you have a driver's license? Or do you have previous internship experience, for example? And what that will do is when students try to book the meeting on this schedule, they'll see a pop-up box with your question. It should be in the form of a yes or no. and they will choose yes to be able to go ahead and book on your schedule. If they select no, then they won't be able to book. So it is not tied to their profile. It's just extra information that you want them to be aware of if they're booking on your schedule. I see a couple of questions. Prerequisites are for the one-on-one and the group meeting rooms. Of course, the purpose of the group meeting rooms is kind of to be more inclusive, more flexible, more fluid in terms of interaction. So there probably wouldn't need to be too much reason for putting prerequisites on that schedule. It is available if you need to, and they can be different for each schedule you create. So each new schedule within one company, whether one-on-one or group, can have its own prerequisites if need be. So for example, if you're hiring for, I don't know, a software developer and accounting intern, you might very well have different major requirements for each. So that's an option, or you might have different skills or different prerequisites. You can certainly edit that accordingly. On the final page is just reviewing your schedule. So you'll just make sure that it is set up how you intended it to be, and you'll hit publish. Once you publish, you cannot delete a schedule. I saw this question in the chat. You cannot delete a schedule if you created one by mistake, or it was an accident, or you created one too many schedules. You would want to contact the Experiential Learning Office for the Internship Fair, or Career Services Office for Career Expo, and let them know exactly which schedule you created by mistake, so they can delete it if that's appropriate. If that does happen, a good idea would be to go and edit the name of the schedule, put something like delete this schedule, please, so they know exactly which one they need to go and delete. But once you publish, you don't have the ability to delete schedules. Okay, any other questions on schedule creation just before we go through some of the final actions you want to be doing on the portal? So step one will be where you choose the assigned recruiter. Either it's yourself, one of your teammates, a new recruiter you'd like to invite, or you can skip it. As you can see here, it says assigned recruiter not available. We haven't selected anyone yet. A schedule type will be one-on-one or group. Schedule details will be where you'll want to enter the name, the description, the time, and the interaction type. And these can be changed, so you can go in and update the name or the description or the interaction type if need be. The time and duration page is where you will customize your schedule and the timings of it. And of course, prerequisites, like I said, entirely optional before you hit publish. Okay, so once you hit publish, you'll be brought back to this screen, which is your schedules homepage. And you can see that green bar is still at the top. So if you want to pull that menu up, you will want to click this. It will give you that drop-down menu of options again, create a schedule, invite a recruiter. And underneath that, you'll see the schedule list. So a couple of things, you can filter. If you want to just view the group schedules, you can deselect this. If you want to just view one-on-one schedules, you can uncheck the group schedules box. So right now it's showing me all of the schedules, and you'll see they're actually sorted into two sections. So at the top, I have my schedules. I'm logged in with, my dummy recruiter account. So I can see here, this one is assigned to me, and all schedules that are assigned to me will pull to the top under the My Schedules list. Underneath that, I can see all the schedules that are created under this company assigned to my teammates, or they might have no assigned recruiter. So you can see here's the one we just created. No recruiter assigned. You can still see all the details. To make any edits, you would want to go ahead and click on the schedule. And we can see underneath here is a group schedule. It's internships, Q&A for the tech internship. So you can go ahead and look at the details, description, anyone can come in and edit these from within your team. So if I clicked in this schedule, it's going to pull me to this page where I can see the full schedule details, the timings at the bottom, and I can assign a recruiter. As soon as you know who's going to be managing it, you'll want to click on this pencil and you'll choose from the list of recruiters within your company. And if you click Manage Schedule, you'll get the option to edit the details of the schedule or the time slots. So as I mentioned, details includes name, description, interaction type. So if you want to switch from Career Fair Plus Video Room to Zoom or Skype, you can do that from that page and edit the time slots. As I said, you can do it up until the day of your fair, blocking and unblocking, but you cannot change the time-related variables, so the start time and end time, if you have a student booking on the schedule. We're about to go and talk about joining the meeting and how you need to test that. But any questions on kind of making edits or viewing the schedule over here? And actually I've got on the next slide, here's an example of a schedule that has a student booking. So you can see I've got this student booking over here. I can see the time, I can see the name. If you go and click on that booking, it will bring you to a page that shows you candidate profile information and their resume if they've uploaded one. So any questions on viewing student reservations on your schedule before we move on to one of the most important actions, definitely, which is to test the video meeting room before the event. We're almost there. So any questions before we move on to testing the video meeting room? What I'm going to do actually is demonstrate this live. So when you click into the schedule card, as you can see, you have these actions in the corner and you want to click on join meeting. So this big blue button, you definitely want to test this in advance. And easy tip, as soon as you create the schedule, the video meeting link is automatically created. So ideally, as soon as you create the schedule, go ahead and test the platform. I know that there are some networks, especially if you're in a financial institution, government agency, or a defense military company, they might be blocking certain platforms, and this might be one of them. So please test this in advance. The last thing you want is you come on the day of the event, you have a student booking at 9:30, and at 9:25 you find out that it's not working as you thought it would. So please test this in advance. As you saw, we have other options. You will be able to change the interaction type to Skype or to Zoom or to Teams or any other platform that you know works for you. You can also change it to a phone interaction. So worst case, you don't have any video platforms that you want to use or that work, or you prefer phone calls, you can definitely change it to a phone interaction, pick up the phone and call your candidates at their meeting times. That's certainly an option as well. So to test this, and I'm just going to stop my screen share for a moment so I can demonstrate this on the web. So you will come in to your schedule page. So let's go ahead and share this again. So we're here on my schedules page. Again, as you can see, exactly as I showed, I can see my schedules at the top and team schedules. A couple of things that happen when you hover over the schedule, you will notice that this little green bar appears to tell me a little visual indicator of how far ahead my schedule is booked. as well as seeing that number in the corner. And for the group schedule, you'll also be able to see the total number of bookings. So if I click into this schedule, you want to test the video meeting platform is working for you by clicking this blue Join Meeting button. So I've paused my video so I can go ahead and demo this. I'll click Join Meeting. It's going to open up in a new tab. It does work best on Chrome. So ideally, if you're using Chrome as a browser, that's ideal. And if it's the first time you're coming into this platform, your browser might prompt you to request your camera and your microphone for permission. So you might have to allow permissions. Once you do, you'll see, hopefully you'll be able to see an image of yourself. And if you see your microphone moving up and down, you know it's all good, it's all working. You want to go ahead and click Join Meeting. And this will bring you into a room that looks something like this. You should just be seeing yourself. This is not a waiting room. It is, think of it as your virtual booth or your virtual office. This is where students will come in to meet with you. So you're going to be sitting in here, and as your student appointments come on time, they will have to actually knock to enter your room. And the reason for that is that all the video meeting rooms are set up by default to be locked rooms. And you can see that over here in the top left corner. This padlock icon indicates that it is locked. And as you can see, it can host 4 people at a time. So currently there's 1 out of the 4 people in here. And just before I demonstrate what the knocking looks like when students come in, you can see at the bottom, if I wanted to have an audio only interaction, I could turn my camera off, and this is what it would look like. So if you do come in without your camera, this is all you will see. This is the name that you have entered when you're joining in the room. I'll turn it back on for now. You can share your screen. So if you need to share a PowerPoint or a website, you can certainly do that. If you're trying to share a video over a screen share, just be advised that the audio might not relay so well through this way. So it might be easier to use the chat box to send a link to a YouTube or something like that. So you can definitely chat with candidates over here. You can, you need to send a link or you need to send something on YouTube. You can definitely do that. And over here, you can see this People tab, which shows you who's in the room right now. As you mentioned, if you would like to have multiple recruiters joining the same schedule, your teammate or your colleague can click on this blue Join Meeting link, and they will come into the same schedule and be in the room with you. I see a couple of questions. I'll just finish this piece and then we'll address the questions. So when a student is trying to join your room, they will have to knock, as I mentioned. And you're about to see the notification coming up. So you'll see this thing that's popped up in the corner of my screen. It says IBI test, which is me as a test student requested to join. And there was a little sound as well. Of course, you didn't hear that. It's coming in to my headphones, but you will have a little notification sound that lets you know someone is knocking to join in your room or your virtual booth or virtual office, whatever you want to think of it as. So you can let them in. You have the control or the power to choose who joins your room and when. So assuming it is the student you're expecting, you can either let them in directly. You could also choose to see who it is if you want a visual preview. If they have their camera on, you will get to see who it is. So that's not the most flattering image, but it will do for the purposes of the demonstration. So what you can do is, let's say you're finishing up with another student, or you just need a minute, or maybe the student is a little early and you just like to take a breather. You can actually respond by putting them on hold. So you can definitely do that. And they've now received a message to say they've been placed on hold. And then when you're ready to let them in, when the time comes or when you finish up with the current student and they leave, you can go ahead and let the student in. Great, just muted them so I don't get the echo. Now you can have your interaction. So I'm in here as the recruiter, and we have the other me who is the student, and we'll have our interaction, whether it was 10 minutes or 20 minutes, 15 minutes that you set, but be aware that you'll have to track the time yourself. So this is not linked to your schedule in the sense that if you're having a really good conversation with a student and you run a couple of minutes over and you don't have a meeting after that, that's okay. This platform is not going to kick anyone out of the room when the time is up. So you want to be monitoring your timings yourself, making sure that you're keeping an eye on the time and keeping an eye on your schedule as well. When the candidate's done, they'll leave the room and you'll be back in this room by yourself, and you'll wait for the next student to join and knock on your room. And when you're done, you can just hit leave. So that's how you would want to test that. And like I said, it is critical that you do that. I see a couple of questions, so let's take a look at those. So Brandon's question is, can the interaction type be changed after bookings have been scheduled? Yes, that is one thing that you can change. And of course, that is definitely important if you test the video meeting platform and you find that it doesn't work for you. You definitely want to go ahead and choose another platform that's going to work. So you will go into manage schedule, edit the details, and update the interaction type to Zoom or Skype, and make sure you add the link in, and that will show up to candidates when they book a meeting with you. Let me see if we had any other questions. There is a question about putting the type of role that you're interviewing for. So you want to put that in the schedule name. So if you're looking for an engineer, yes, you would want to indicate that. And Teams is compatible. Any video meeting platform is compatible. It's going to take the student to a separate video platform. So as long as you provide them with the link, that's completely okay. You can enter whatever link it is in the additional instructions. There are some resources here on screen for the day of the event, and those might be being posted in the chat or sent out to you. So for the internship fair, if you have any questions, there will be staff from the office in the Q&A room for employers, and the Zoom link is here, and the same thing for the Career Expo for day 1 and day 2. So if you're having any issues or you have any questions, feel free to go in there and someone will be available to help you. That's it from me. We just hit time. There are a couple of extra videos on this page, so you can go ahead and view those if you want to get a refresher or anything like that. And of course, this is being recorded as well. That is it from me. If there are any final questions, we are available to take them, and more than happy to answer any questions anyone has. I see there is a question from Teresa on a way to review what your company profile looks like to students. And the way to do that would be if you went to app.careerfairplus.com, which is the same place you would go to log in, you can see the list of organizations here. So you could go ahead, search UCF, go ahead and click the fair that you're registered for, and you'll be able to see exactly what the students will see. And so if we click into this company, for example, we can see this is what students will see. So they will see your logo, your name, the overview, website, majors recruited for, position types, school years, job titles, all of that information. And this is what it would look like to students, as well as any schedules that are created. Well, I'll pass it back to Veronica and the team at UCF. I hope this was helpful for everyone and gave you a perspective of what you should expect and what you need to be doing at each stage of the process. So again, just to reiterate, please make sure you create your schedules before the scheduling window opens on Jan 20th. ideally as soon as possible because students are already in there doing their research, and you want them to have visibility into the schedules you have available. So thank you very much to everyone. I'll pass it back over to the team.
All right. Thank you very much, Ivy. So there was a question regarding receiving a copy of the presentation. So we did record this webinar. So it may take us a little bit, hopefully by tomorrow, but each of the teams, so if you registered for the Internship Fair, you will receive an email from myself. If you register for the Career Expo, you will receive an email from the Career Services team, and they will be able to provide you with either a copy of the webinar or a link to the webinar. Just one final note is that, registration for students opens up on the 20th. So as Ibby stated, that you'll want to, as soon as possible, have your schedules created in Career Fair Plus before the 20th. So that way students can go in and they can see those schedules and begin to sign up. However, if your organization has registered for the fairs, but they have not paid for the fairs, you will not have received the invitation link to Career Fair Plus in order to create your schedules. So if you haven't received the link, you can reach out to myself in experiential learning or the career services team, and we will be able to look in that and determine that. But just knowing that if you have not paid, then that could potentially be one of the reasons why you have not received the link to create your schedules within Career Fair Plus. And our payment policy states that we have to have that before we can provide you with the link and have you register in the platform and participate in the event. So if you have any questions on that, you can reach out to the respective offices for those events, and we'll be able to help you as soon as possible. So if there are no final questions, again, we thank you for joining us. If you have any additional questions after this, then please feel free to reach out to the respective offices, and we will get those questions answered. And thank you for attending the webinar, and also thank you for registering for our events and recruiting students here at UCF.